Thank you for joining us with our artist, Scott Onsager, and a brief recap of his exhibition, Children's Storytime, Family Legends Retold. Scott earned his BFA at UW-Milwaukee and has subsequently become the co-founder of Village Artists and Gallery on New Hampshire's Squam Lake, and is also the creative director for a new YMCA art center in Pennsylvania. He's also a member of the Creative Fire Pottery and La Crosse Clay Center in Wisconsin. Scott is displaying a collection of 8 narrative stoneware sculptures, speaking to the intersection of a family's past, present, and mythology. At some point during every gathering, his family retells those long ago personal events that molded his clan. Triumphant, aching, and ridiculous stories endlessly repeated until reaching legendary status. Through a hand building process, Scott has portrayed these family legends in clay, fusing the narrative ceramics of ancient Greece with German expressionism's moody atmospheric quality. Haunted by deep memory, these works reshape timeless forms to express the artist's lived experience. So join me in thanking Scott as he talks to us a little bit about his exhibition, Children's Storytime, Family Legends Retold.
All right. Am I on?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know if I have anything else to add to that, because that pretty much covered my talk. But I will say that I grew up in South Central Wisconsin in a town called Mauston, and I've always loved art. And I drew every single chance I got, and I always got the Christmas presents of the art supplies and everything like that. So I did all of that all the way through high school, and then when I was a senior in high school, my dad died of a heart attack. So that kind of knocked me sideways on entering adulthood. So I struggled with growing up and moving out of the house. So one day my nephew said to me, he's like, why don't you become an artist? Which I'd never thought of doing before. And so I'm just like, and something clicked with that. And I just thought, I think that's it. I think that's it. So I enrolled at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee, studied there for a number of years, and then received my Bachelor of Fine Arts, and also became certified to teach K through 12, which was what I was going to do. I was going to teach. But that didn't work out so much. So I decided to move, and I moved to Pennsylvania. And I moved to New Hampshire, and then I moved to Pennsylvania. But in Pennsylvania, I worked in an art center for the YMCA in Sunbury, and worked there for about 10 years. And while I was there, my mom and my brother started to get ill for separate reasons. And so I was finding myself traveling back and forth quite a bit. So I just decided maybe it was time to move back to Wisconsin. And so I did. And then shortly after I moved back, my mom and my brother both passed away. So I just felt that I needed my family around me more than ever. So and my family, we're kind of a big family. We're 7 kids in it, with like a 22-year difference between the oldest and the youngest. And one of the things that keeps us connected is the stories that we tell about our childhoods. And so that inspired me to create these pieces, to record these stories that we share over and over again. And these stories become bigger every time we tell them. So I don't know how we survived these adventures growing up, but so the story would suggest. So starting with these family stories, I took inspiration from ancient Greek pottery and their narrative images, and I combined that with German expressionism, which I love, and because I really liked its lights and darks and its angles and its off balance environment. So, which, I always think about when I think about my childhood. And so basically, the process of doing that is I create a paper model first, an exact replica of the piece I want to create. And I make it out of paper, and then I take those pieces of paper and use them as a template for a slab of clay. And so I just create the shapes from that slab, and then I construct the piece of pottery. And you'll see in some of the images of my pieces that they look like sometimes they look broken, they look strangely askew. And so I try to do that, and then I carve in the imagery that you see on them, and I carve it in. I usually cover it in a black underglaze first, and except for the image, and then I fire it once, and then I bring it out again, and I add more black to the carved out areas, and so that sort of seeps into the crevices and creates the image, basically like printmaking. So yeah, so that's pretty much the process. And then after it's fired the second time, then I just I try to put it into shows, which I did here at the Onsager. And so I think that it's very important for me. It was very important for me to share these pieces with my family when they came to the show, because they're in these pieces, and they also, remember all the stories that the pieces show. And so, and when we were together and we saw these pieces, we went right back into, retelling the stories and sharing the memories. And that was a really special moment for me at the show. So I was very happy to have that happen.
Well, I have to say, Scott, the first time I saw these, they're very, very striking. Just not only in the geometry of them, but the hard contrast between um, the matte black and then your drawings. What made you decide to marry these two together in terms of the image and then the shape of your work? Or did they come about at the same time?
Well, they sort of came about the same time. What the images here don't show you is that there's another side to these. So the story that I tell pretty much has two images to each piece. So I had to make sure that there's a flat surface on there. Well, it would be easier to see and read as a story if it was completely flat. So I had both sides flat, and then the shapes of them, they just came kind of organically. And then as you make them out of paper, and then when you make them out of clay, you just hope they stand up. And so, if they stand up, then, it's a success. So, and that's what these did. So, but you can see, sometimes you'll see handles, what would appear to be a handle on these, and maybe some sort of spout or something. So you can see that it's kind of looks like a vase of some sort. But the German expressionism comes in when it's these strange, like they don't really make sense as is. And and so they just have this very strange off balance feeling, which
Mhm.
oftentimes when I think about my childhood, that's kind of how it feels.
Well, I appreciate the subtlety of the kind of the image between those two lines. I'm not sure what we would call them, um, that allude to Greek pottery. Um, this the those lines you have there at the top and the bottom.
Yeah, that was just sort of inspired through the Greek pottery, which
Hmm.
always had some decorative border or element to it.
Hmm.
I put those in too, and you can see they fall off, they're broken, they're um, I think they just add to the
Hmm.
gimmick.
You've mentioned that it was a lot of German expressionism in terms of, well, I think we might have mentioned the film. Maybe that was just you and I talking. Um, any any influence from the painters at that time as well? I see that a lot in some of your works, kind of the chaotic nature of them.
Yeah, I would say maybe Otto Dix was probably a
Mm.
great influence. A lot of printmaking, even artists who you don't think of as printmakers,
Mhm.
I- their work, um, things like Kathy Kullitz and
Mhm.
just those really dynamic images that
Graphic. Mhm.
very graphic and very emotional.
Right. Lovely.
So yeah, that's inspiration for it.
Would you like to share anything else about your practice or?
Well, I only what I like to do is oftentimes, because I go between ceramics and painting, and I often am inspired from one to the other. So
Mm.
I have this strange feeling that as I continue with this, my family's going to be involved whether they want to or not. So in the so so I'll probably continue with that, and but probably take them into the realm of painting
Mm.
also, and so that's what I the plans I have, and
Mhm.
um, so we'll see how it goes.
Any plans to look at any like old medieval paintings? I'm thinking about the way you organize your picture frames.
I often look at um, neo-expressionism.
Hmm.
Um, uh, I think that um, Jean-Michel Basquiat probably a big influence on a lot of the things that I do.
Hmm.
So um, I always find that the art that I'm most inspired by is the least like my style for some
Interesting.
reason. So I find it very difficult to like I want to paint like that, and I just it just out that that.
Hmm.
So I always end up with something usually that ends up in the trash. But you have to go through a lot of first drafts, second drafts
Hmm.
before it all comes together. So and that's what all of these pieces did too.
Hmm.
I worked up to this, so there's a lot of pieces that you could see were leading to these
To
pieces,
this. Hmm.
but they end up in the basement in a box. So
Well, thank you, Scott, for joining us and giving us some more insight on your exhibition. And we hope to see you exhibiting again.
thank you very much.